Hey everyone, welcome to the Coding Zoo. If this is your first time joining, my name is Shane, and this is the HTML Building Blocks series. In this lesson today, we're going to cover what is an HTML element, what are attributes, and we might touch upon the document object model. Let's go ahead and get started. Today, there's no need to actually follow along coding with me. I'm just going to cover a few of the basic definitions and give you an idea of what these terms mean. So first, let's talk about HTML elements. An HTML element is basically just a component that makes up an HTML page. Usually an HTML element surrounds data, and it gives that data description, or it gives that data meaning. Some HTML elements actually give it a little bit of look and feel, but you tend to want to use CSS for look and feel. An HTML element is created using what's called tags. You have a begin tag and you have an end tag. Here, let me create the div HTML element. So here's div. That's my begin tag right there. And put a little text in the middle. And I'm going to put my ending tag. So notice I have a // there, div, and then I'm going to close it off. So this is my ending tag. So this entire, this is a div HTML element, and that element is separating my data here. It's a way of dividing my data up. Now, when the browser sees these HTML elements, as it's parsing this document, it knows that a div is a certain type of component, and that component has certain behavior or certain sometimes look and feel, and it acts accordingly. So as you build an HTML document, you have different HTML elements, and those elements have other elements inside of them. For example, I can go here and I'm going to put some more elements here and tab that out. So let's say I want my name to be in bold. I'm going to put the bold HTML element tag. So here I have the div HTML element, and it has a child element which is bold. And both of these elements are basically wrapping my data here, which is Shane is here, and kind of describing it or separating it in a way. Okay, so an HTML element has a beginning and an end tag. An HTML element is created from two tags, a beginning and an end tag. The browser interprets those tags into components that make up your HTML document. You can have HTML elements within other HTML elements. There are certain types of HTML elements that do not have an end tag. They're called empty elements. So for example, if I have the BR HTML element, it basically creates a new line. That's what BR does. There's nothing to put in the middle there. There's no text or anything to do. It just creates a new line. So that's basically an empty HTML element. So when you have an empty HTML element, you only need one tag, the beginning tag. You don't have to have an end tag. HTML5 doesn't require you to do this, but if you want to, you can actually go ahead and make the tag kind of self-terminating by putting a /. So an HTML element is made up of tags. Usually there's a beginning and an end tag. Occasionally you'll have some elements that are called empty elements. They don't need an end tag. You can terminate them with the /. When you have a beginning and an end tag, the end tag has a / leaning to the right. HTML elements are components that make up your HTML page, that surround your data to give it description, and that's basically what an HTML element is. When your browser takes these tags and interprets them into HTML objects, a document object model is created. The document object model is basically just a representation of your entire document. Each HTML element is transformed into a component, into an object behind the scenes that make up this document object model. When you get into CSS and JavaScript, you'll start manipulating this document object model. So what are attributes? Attributes are basically little name value pairs that you put on an HTML element. Let's go to this div here. So if I type in ID equals, I'm going to type in introduction. So I basically have a div that's surrounding my data, which says Shane is here. And that div, I just gave it an ID attribute, which is called introduction. So I'm basically just describing my data using the ID attribute. An attribute is a name value pair. The name here is ID. And you always have the name equals, and then you have the value in double quotes or quotes. So ID equals introduction. In this case, the attribute is used to describe my data. Now, in some cases, the attribute can be used to tell my HTML element to act differently, right? Or to have a different style. For example, I can add a style tag here. And I'm going to say color is red. So now I've basically I've got a div HTML element. It has an ID attribute, which tells me that this data inside of here is my introduction. I've told this element basically with style equals color red to color its text inside of the div to red, right? So this is basically an HTML attribute. All HTML elements pretty much have an attribute, and there's different types of attributes that promote different behavior and used for different reasons. As you learn each HTML tag, you want to learn the attributes that can be used with that tag. So that's basically it. We have HTML elements. They're made up of a beginning and end tag. Sometimes there's an empty element that only has a beginning tag that can be self-terminated. We have attributes. Attributes basically describe the HTML element give more description around its content, or it actually tells the HTML element to behave or look differently. These elements and attributes are basically converted or interpreted by your browser into components behind the scenes in memory, components which make up your document object model. They're turned into a tree of objects. This is called the document object model. And as you get it more into CSS and advanced JavaScript, you'll start manipulating or programming against that object model. You might say, take this div, this object, and move it from this part of the document to this part of the document. So it's called the document object model. All right, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the quick overview. If you did, please click that like button, click subscribe, and let us know how we can improve the videos. Thanks for joining us. Hope you have a great day.